Hi, everybody. This is Leslie Pitt with Project Lolo, and I am delighted to be here today and to interview our friend Morgan Kisitu along with my brother Greg Pitt, as we're going to talk about Uganda and what the situation is now with COVID, as well as children who live with differing abilities and and what their situation is. Before I start off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Project Lolo and how we came to be and how we came to meet our friend Morgan. Project Lolo is a global nonprofit that I started along with my brother about 2 years ago. And it really started after my brother and I traveled to Ghana. We had thought of the nonprofit and what we wanted to do, but it wasn't until we went to Ghana and came back that we realized the scope of what we wanted to do with Project Lolo. And what that is that we partner, if you will, with clinics or hospitals or places that provide orthopedic care to kids with differing abilities or what is more commonly known as disabilities. So limb loss, cerebral palsy, anything that may require them to have an orthopedic device. That could be a prosthetic leg or a prosthetic arm, it could be crutches, it could be a wheelchair, so on. We are focusing first our efforts in developing countries because that's really where I feel the need is greatest. This is actually from something I had learned some time ago, just about the incidence of disability, if you will, and really what's happening to children. Why Project Lolo started is really a very personal one. So when I was 6, I was run over by a truck and my leg was so severely crushed that it was amputated. And I mean, this is in the United States in 1975 and very different times then versus now. But after I became aware that kids, mostly in developing or underdeveloped countries, are not being treated like kids, not being treated like humans because of their disability, that I just felt so compelled to do something about it. And so the process took a while. The journey was a little bit long, and what resulted in Project Lolo. Um, for the name, I always like to just let people know too. So Lolo actually stands for love ourselves, love others. And really what that concept is that if we can accept everything about ourselves, perfections, imperfections and all, I feel like then we can really understand and be more empathetic towards other people. So that's a little bit about Project Lolo. And I will kick off with questions. As I said, we have our friend Morgan here, who is in Uganda, my brother Greg, who's in Seattle. And so I'll kick it off, Greg. And Morgan, I think we'll just have a conversation here. But can you tell us, you started a nonprofit, a non-governmental organization. Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, See Them Grow Foundation is a registered nonprofit, and it's based in Uganda where we operate from. And the foundation's mission is to improve the quality of life of this generation in Uganda through sensitization for attitude change, provision of quality education service, and empowerment of communities, and to demonstrate best practice in replicable and sustainable community development initiatives. We operate in Luwuka
Mhm.
district, one of the poorest districts in Uganda, and sugarcane is the largest economic resource. Hence, many children have become vulnerable to exploitation, child labor, abuse, rape, and even death because of the competitive and gruesome conditions in the fields. These children have grown up thinking that working in sugarcane fields is their only way of life. So See Them Grow Foundation is working to sensitize, educate, empower them to know that their lives can look different, and they can be different from just like any other children. So education is our first step. So
Mhm.
briefly, that's about See Them Grow Foundation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
How long have you been in existence as the Seed and Grow
Um,
Foundation?
uh, we all started operating in 2016.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a couple of like about 4 years now of
Okay.
operating.
So about the
Yeah,
same age as
yeah,
Project Lola.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, and then we are trying up to set up a school, which can be a source of inspiration for all children and people with disabilities as well.
Mhm.
So, are we starting? We're trying to set up like a technology center for effective delivery and reception of existing health, education, economic, and social services. So, Luuka, and later we'll move to. Right now we're operating in Luuka, but we hope to move to different sub counties around Luuka.
Mm.
Yeah,
How big is that region? I mean, would you say population wise, just in general, just to give people a sense of
it's about the population. It's
yeah.
about the population in Luuka is about 5 million right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's really big. It's a big district. It's in one of the newest and poorest district in all of Uganda.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what is the overall population of Uganda approximately? I guess I'm just trying to
We
get.
about 48 million people right now.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah,
didn't
So a
yeah.
realize.
fairly good portion of the population is centered in
Mm,
that region then.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
So, children, you talked a lot, briefly talked about sugarcane mining or in the fields and how it impacts children.
Mm,
Um, but I had read some time ago uh, there are, and I think this is according to UNICEF, or I believe that was the source, but there are approximately 2.5 million children who are orphans in Uganda alone. Um, and so, from your understanding, can you tell us a little bit about children who are orphans and what is the cause? Is it greater in the Luka region, or is it overall, or just what is the prevalence really?
I think the population is really big. It's about, yeah, I think right now it's more than that.
Okay.
But the main cause of like children being orphans, it's HIV/AIDS. That was
Mm.
the
Oh,
biggest
wow.
one. Yeah, many actually even my parents died when I was young, when I was 8.
Oh
They
wow.
died of HIV, and I
Okay.
grew up as an orphan as well. So that's the biggest one. Then the second one is uh, gender-based violence.
Oh
There's been
wow.
a lot of gender-based violence in most especially outside the cities, whereby parents fight between themselves and then they end up killing each other, and then most of the children end up orphans.
Mm.
Extreme poverty is one of them also, whereby some parents they can't afford to take care of their children, and what they do, they go and drop off all of them at the streets, or they drop off at city centers, and then they go back because they can't take care of
Mm.
them, and they think that people will pick them from the streets and then take care of them. Then so that has been one of the reasons why we are having a lot of um, orphans, and then also polygamous marriages.
Okay.
Many, like some cultures here, are allowed to marry as many wives as they can, whereby some of, like, due to poverty, they can't afford to take care of their children. Children run out of their homes and then end up on streets, or end up in other districts where
Mm.
they can beg on the streets and then get food, or
Mhm.
find a way to survive. So
Mhm.
those are some of the reasons why we have like really a high number of orphans in Uganda.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as you're aware, you studied in the United States. So, in the United States, we have like Department of Social Services or Department of Health and
Mm,
Human Services, where schools, public schools, where if children are, say, subject of domestic abuse, like parents
mm,
or become orphans for other reasons, we have the
mm,
infrastructure, if you will, to take care of
mm,
kids.
mm,
That
mm.
is not necessarily the case in Uganda, is it?
No, no, it's
No.
not. Actually, there's a few non-profits that really offer help to such kids, and then like that's like See Them Grow Foundation is one of them, whereby we get some of the orphans and then offer them services, offer them to study for free, and provide them with clothes, food, and stuff. Um, But the government, we do not have that structure at all in Uganda. It does
Hmm.
not exist.
Do you ever foresee that happening?
It might, but only if non-profits push it.
Okay.
But as for the government, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just out of curiosity, but the nonprofits,
Hmm.
European based, African based,
Yeah,
United States, from all over the
yeah.
world, really.
They're all over from the world, from different
Hmm.
countries. Yeah, all
Hmm.
over the world. We have Australians, we have like
Okay. Oh,
US,
sure.
but US is the biggest one. There's a lot of non-profits from the US that are doing a great job, and then
Hmm.
from the UK. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, no, that's just, it's, I think one thing as I've been learning, well, first initially about children, I mean, just in Africa, in the African countries
Mm,
alone, and then other parts of the world. And that was
yeah.
such a learning for me, really thinking, I take for granted that we have this
Mm,
infrastructure, and that's just not the reality. And I know
mm,
when I talk about what the experience was when Greg and I went to Ghana and and Guatemala to a lesser extent.
mm,
But I don't think people really understand, what really, for lack of a better term, what the gravity of the situation is. Like, we take
no.
for granted how easy we have things, and how much we have structure. And I know for me, for Greg, for Project Lolo, just seeing that one little situation, and hopefully when we come to visit you too, I mean, it's just, it's overwhelming, quite frankly, to
It
understand
is.
when you see the number of children, the conditions.
Mm,
It's really hard. I'm having even now a hard time articulating what it is, the extent of it. But I know I always take one child at a time, one day at a time.
mm,
You,
yeah.
as much as we all would love to, to help everybody, and I think that's collectively what we're doing. You do that by
Mm,
taking, one step at a time, one child at a time,
true.
one school at a time, so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
Mm,
Um, the orphanage that you that you're building, your organization is building the school. Tell us about
mm.
that. That's
Um.
the huge undertaking.
Yeah,
Congratulations
it
on
Yeah,
that
is.
too.
Thank you.
I
It's
can't wait to see that. And
Yeah, me too. It's the school is going to have like a pre and primary school, secondary, and then also a vocational center that will
oh
support
wow,
up to 1,500 children in Luka district. Um, and this, like I said, this is one of the poorest districts in all of Uganda. The community has historically and continues to struggle with famine, poverty, lack of clean water and education resources, and lack of medical care. There is a high number of orphaned children in need, and we know that this center will place where the children can receive the care and support they desperately need. We also believe that in the power of education, to change and empower communities. Each child is a seed, and as they grow, they will provide shade and shelter for their community.
Hmm.
So we are thinking that once the school starts, right now we are on our phase one, where we have laid bricks, and we have the plan is being approved by the district for the school, and we were supposed to kickstart. Uh, we were supposed to kickstart this year, but we were unable due to COVID.
Hmm.
Most of our funders and sponsors are kind of uncertain about the situation right now, and they said we should hold on for a few months to see how the situation is going to look like in the next couple of months. But officially, we were supposed to launch the project in next February 2020. That's where we're supposed to start building the school.
Hmm.
So, and we had several fundraisings with that we were supposed to have this year from different countries. We have one in France. We were supposed to have one in the US and then one in Australia, but they were now on hold because of
Hmm.
COVID. And even right now, even the school construction is on hold till things get better or things
Hmm.
get back to normal. But
Hmm.
we're super excited. Everything is set. We're just wanted to do the groundbreaking, and then we can start the construction. Even the
That's
president of the country was supposed to come and, lay the stone at our foundation. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
yeah, yeah,
congratulations. That's a
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
huge undertaking.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. So we are super excited about it. We did a charity climb.
Hmm.
We hiked Kilimanjaro to raise some money to help us with the groundbreaking, and then we raised about 48,000 US dollars.
Oh,
Uh,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you, which was good. So we're just waiting for the
Hmm.
situation to get back to normal. That's it.
Hmm.
But we're super
Hmm.
excited about the entire project.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
No, that's yeah, it's a very different time, very different
yeah,
time. I know
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so with Project Lolo, it's sort of the same thing. We had several fundraisers scheduled for this year. We had a trip to come visit you, and yeah, and
Mm,
just with COVID, everything is different. But I think,
yeah,
that's just what we do until we have a better sense.
yeah.
Um, before I sort of want to circle back, and I know
Mm,
before which I'm curious about COVID too and what you're experiencing there, just because I think for understanding sort of again the gravity of it. But
mm,
I want to understand. So as you know, with Project Lolo, we're helping kids get access to orthopedic care or
mm,
devices,
mm,
and kids with disabilities are what we really call differing abilities. I know,
mm.
Greg, you had a comment when we were visiting Ghana. We spent time at what's called the Orthopedic Training Center. Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about what they are and what they do?
Absolutely. So the Orthopedic Training Center is based in Nsawam, which is about 40 kilometers outside of Accra. And
Mm,
their primary function is almost a rehab facility for children after they've been discharged from hospital. Um, their primary focus are mobility issues, whether it be, amputation of a leg or use of a wheelchair because of cerebral palsy or other
mm,
instances, and they are able to function as, not only a rehab facility, but they also, like I said, will provide the child with the device they need. They do have an on-site prosthetic laboratory that will fit
mm,
the child, fabricate the
mm,
prosthetic, and then educate the person or the patient on using it, and kind of set them up for success and how to live life or manage life now with that facility or with
mm,
that device, excuse me.
mm,
And it was just incredible to see because, not only do they just take these kids in, they house them, they educate them, they feed them. And in a lot of cases, we even saw that their mothers were there with them to some degree, that kind of stuff. And so it's just incredible to see that they have a very, very structured system, but they've been around for
mm, mm.
45 years, is it?
I think
Yeah.
So,
so.
they've had quite a bit of time to get to that. One of the things we kind of learned was that, or I was curious about it, so I just did a little bit of research myself, is Ghana is lucky enough to have a universal health care system. They call it the National Health Insurance
Mm,
Scheme. And prior to this, they were a cash-based system, so those who couldn't afford care didn't receive it, and especially in emergency situations. So a lot of children or adults even died after a severe injury. We learned injury was caused by, in children, it could be being hit by a truck like Leslie because of the situation with the roads there. Um, we met some adults at the facility as well that were lost limbs in mining accidents.
mm,
So
mm,
just all sorts of stuff. But then there was also high incidence of limb differences based upon cognitive issues, birth issues, poor prenatal care, that kind of stuff.
mm.
But so it's just a very wide range of causation for this. But how does the current healthcare system work in Uganda? I mean, are you cash based? Is there health insurance? I just don't know, and I would love to know for my own sake, and then maybe something we could share with our viewers as well.
How I would say we have Uganda as a well-designed healthcare system, universal health service in the country. But however, due to ignorance, most especially in the rural areas, on the community's health services have been abused by providers due to high level of corruption.
Mm.
Um, Health cares are built at most on almost all sub counties, but access to drugs is a dream as service providers exploit the patients for their personal gains. So
Mm.
I would say we have a universal health care, but it's not functioning. It's not
Sure.
functioning.
Okay.
It's really, really, really bad. A few people in the cities can afford health insurances, but if you go in the villages, you go to the so-called health centers, you can't find any drugs there. You know, people can't, like, even the distances from and the access to the health centers is far away. Like, that's why you see, like, many people, like many women who are going like in labor die on the way because it's
Oh my
very
gosh.
far. Yeah, they can't access it, and even when they get there, there are no beds. They sleep down on the floor. It's really there are no doctors. Even the doctors are not motivated. So it's really, really very hard. That's
Mm.
why we are trying to actually, we University of St. Thomas is going to help us set up like a micro clinic
Mhm.
Oh,
at the
are they?
school where, yeah,
That's
so
incredible.
that will help the women in and the children in the districts.
Mm.
So yeah, but the health system, it's there. We say it's a universal healthcare system, but it's not functioning whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really very horrible.
So it sounds like it's probably centralized to the more urban centers or more
Yes,
urban
pretty much.
population versus the
Pre-
rural population
Pretty
where
much.
you are then.
I would say 40% of the population are the ones that can access health care very well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be pretty much in the cities.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds like what you've said too, just really geared towards the wealthy or the people who have
Mm.
access or have connections, if you will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much.
We
Pretty much.
experienced a little
Yeah.
bit of that in Ghana, though. We had the opportunity. The Orthopedic Training Center has an outpatient clinic located in the
Mm-hmm.
village off campus that was run by one of the other sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something as basic as zinc oxide needed to treat infantigo in a baby that was there. They didn't
Yeah.
have it because it was, basically commandeered for the black market, or people stole the product and the black market. So one of the days I had to go
Yeah.
into the village with the driver and make our rounds to the pharmacies trying to find zinc oxide to bring back to the facility. So definitely I
Yeah.
understand that aspect of it, or that challenge, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's really very much challenging for people with the disabilities.
Yeah.
They are discriminated, they suffer injustice to take an action due to lack of even a simple mobility services and braille materials. They face a lot of difficult accessing education, health,
Mhm.
sports facilities, place of employment, cultural site, and other physical structures.
Mhm.
Most of them are denied access to some of the most buildings, such as schools, hospitals, courts of laws, and it's really, really very heartbreaking.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
so some buildings do not even have facilities such as ramps, you know,
Mhm.
and lifts for people with disabilities. And that's why when we started See Them Grow Foundation, the first step we did is like to go to government schools. There's existing government schools, and we offered to build ramps
Mhm.
to all the schools so that like people with disabilities can access classes, and then they can feel comfortable because some of them will have wheelchairs, but they
Mhm.
cannot push them to go into classes. So we picked up 17 schools,
Oh
government
wow.
schools,
Mhm.
and we in the Luka district, only in Luka districts, and then we are going to build ramps for free,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
also toilets.
Mhm.
We want to build toilets for people with disabilities, which they can access easily. Because if you look at the sanitations and the toilet facilities in the villages, it's really, really, really horrible.
Yeah.
And then you see such a people who cannot walk or can
Right.
push themselves to these latrines. They are like just
Yeah.
holes, you know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you've seen them in Ghana. Yeah, so we offered to build toilets and then and ramps to such schools so that the kids, the children who are pupils who go to these schools can access, you know, the classes, and then can also be to have like a clean toilet facilities. And
Hmm.
that's one of the first steps that we did. And then we um, sent us proposal to 17 schools, and they were supposed to kickstart
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
March, but we weren't able because schools are closed, and then you are not allowed to move wherever you
Hmm.
want to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's one of our goals and things
Hmm.
that we have to do first before we start our own school.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I was talking to a friend who's actually she has an organization based in Kenya, and
Mm,
they provide wheelchairs to kids. And she's Kenyan herself, and she's been
mm,
very instrumental in trying to talk to the Department of Education and to the government on those very topics.
mm,
How can kids even get into the school if there's
yeah.
no access? But one thing that she also pointed out, and I'll ask you,
Mm,
is she said,
mm,
so we get the kids in school. So maybe a child
yeah.
with cerebral palsy who's
Yeah.
cognitively
Mm,
able to comprehend and and learn, but they just need to use a wheelchair. And she said what's
mm,
happening is, so the kids get to school and they get to the classroom, but then the teachers don't know what to do. So the child basically sits in the wheelchair, kind of ignored throughout the day. And especially
mm,
some,
yeah.
is that the case as well? Have you seen?
Yeah, yeah. The existing special need instructors in the universal primary education in Uganda are not all that well equipped with the capacity to handle or deliver services to PW children, you know.
Hmm.
Hence,
Hmm.
there's need to have professional special need personnel to
Yeah.
offer the best needed services to such children, so as to mitigate the independence of gifts from charities, which is not actually sustainable.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
I would say children continue to experience physical barriers and inadequate information, rehabilitation, and unfriendly services because sometimes, like, for instance, if children who cannot talk, if they want to communicate with us, such instructors, they use sign languages, and
Hmm.
sometimes the teachers will not understand the sign languages, you know, because they are not professional, you know, teachers or instructors for
Hmm.
people with disabilities. So limited accessibility to such services has continued to social and economic exclusion of such children.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
it's pretty much the same in Uganda.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you mentioned physical barriers, and certainly we saw a lot of that in
Mm,
Ghana as well. You know, the
yeah.
facility we were at, I wouldn't say state of the art, but we're very far above and beyond what I expected, I think. I
Mm,
did have some preconceived notions going in that thinking maybe they were behind the times, but they were very well set up. But we
yeah.
had the opportunity one afternoon to go out into the village. They do community outreach for
Yeah.
cerebral palsy patients, and so we had a chance to walk out into the village, meet. We're with the group that does the outreach, meet some of
Mm,
the patients. So we went into I believe it's Zongo, which is the
Yeah.
Muslim neighborhood, and
yeah.
there we saw the open latrines, the open sewer, and that kind of stuff, and it was
Yeah.
very eye opening.
Yeah.
But the thing that probably struck us the most, not only the physical barriers, but there seemed to be a lot of societal barriers towards children with different abilities or disabilities there.
Mm, mm,
We heard stories, but then we also experienced it firsthand of practices of genocide or infanticide. Excuse me, I apologize for that. But a lot of stigma towards these children, and the practice I think that's probably opened our eyes the most, or hit us closest, was the practice of what they call the spirit child. We met a young boy named Kobe who was born with bilateral absence of tibia, if I remember correct. And basically, his legs were not going to work ever. And in his
mm,
village, his mom's aunt or great aunt was pressuring her to take Kobe to, um, I think they call him the fetish priest. And it basically a witch doctor, medicine man, and he was to brew a concoction of tea, and if the child survived the lethal concoction, then he wasn't uh, evil. He didn't bring evil to the family. You know, something else caused his thing. But are there similar biases or cultural beliefs towards disability in Uganda, or what
Yeah,
is okay?
yeah, there are many. Like some cultures, like people with disabilities, considered taboos in
Mhm.
communities, which I think is essential. It's really heartbreaking. Like even when I talk about it, and then in some cultures, like some children with disabilities are offered as sacrifices. They kill them, you
Yeah,
know, in some tribes, and I think that's due to ignorance, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and some of them are locked in their houses. They lock
yeah,
them in their houses. They don't want people to see them, so they lock them in their houses, and then they stay there all day. They give them one meal a day. Sometimes they don't give them any whatsoever, and
yeah.
some of them die in their houses. You know, some of them are dropped in the streets. You know, they
Mm,
would just come and drop them in the center somewhere, or leave them with their young kids, like siblings, and then they walk away and then disappear. You know, so I think in
Hmm.
Africa that's really very common. You know, like they are
mhm,
really it's a very common things, and the government some parts have been fighting about because some of them have been sacrificed a lot. You know, they
yeah,
sacrifice them. And they offer him as sacrifices to the gods, the so-called gods, you know, African gods, whatever they call them,
mhm,
and it's really really very hard, and that's why we think in Luka we want to have like a
mm,
center for people with disability where we can house them, educate them, and then also be able to help them, you
mhm,
know, like economically start up their own, you know, small
mhm.
businesses and you know give them micro loans and then you know make sure that they feel you know like the same. They feel like just like any other person, just like any other child in the
Absolutely.
community. Yeah, so
To put them
that's
on a
why
path
we are.
to
Yeah,
self-sustenance almost, or set them on a path to creating a life for themselves since they've been abandoned by
yes,
their family. Okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then we have a big community. Actually, we've been trying to sensitize, you know, and have them, you know, get involved in some of the projects we are doing. And actually, I'm trying to during this COVID. Um, there's been a lot of things going on since all children are home.
Mhm.
There's been like a very high pregnancy rate. Like in Luuka, in just
Sure.
1 month, we got about 60
Mm,
girls getting pregnant. You know, these are 13 and 15 girls. And then it so happened we had an instance whereby one of the girl who is disabled was raped in sugar canes, in the
ah,
sugarcane plantations. And just we realized that the reason why that happened because they had to go and work in sugarcane plantations to get something to eat. And they ended up being raped because they can't fight for themselves. They
wow.
cannot. So the sugarcane growers take advantage of that and then, you know, use them and then rape them and then they get them pregnant and then they drop them off and then
Mm,
they run away. So I've been trying to raise money and start up 4 projects that I
mhm,
want to keep them engaged. And then these projects, they can make themselves sustainable. They can make money and then be able to feed themselves at the same time, sell them out and then
mhm.
make money. And then they can, you know, so that they don't work in the sugarcane plantations again. So
Absolutely.
I've been drafting. I finished up yesterday and I shared it with some of our board members, and we're trying to raise money so that we can start up this project, so that these girls and can, you know, stay engaged in these projects and then be able to, you know, support themselves and then also be able to sell up some of these products and and then you know be able to take care of themselves. One of them we are starting up a poultry farming,
Mhm.
and then also starting up like a piggery farming, and then
Okay.
also like rabbits. and then
Yep.
also goats rearing. So these
Okay.
projects will keep them. We are going to set them up on our land that we bought in Ruka,
Mhm.
and it's going to be a free land. They can use it because we bought it for them.
Mhm.
So they can start these projects, and then it will keep them engaged, so that they don't have to work again in sugarcane plantations, and then
Mhm.
get into such situations just like they're in right
Wow.
now. Yeah,
Wow. That's just
yeah,
heartbreaking.
it's hard. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Oh my
It's really
gosh.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
My gosh.
So yeah.
And then what happens with like the baby that's born? I mean, what's the likelihood of that child's outcome?
They take care of them. These are
Yeah.
some of the strongest women I've ever had in my life. They really take care
Okay.
of their babies. But sometimes the men, when they give birth to these kids, they come and steal them. They steal out the babies and take them.
Hmm.
You know, which is really very very hard. They steal the baby away from the girls and take them away. They hide them away.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
It's
when
just
but they don't support me, but they don't support them when they are pregnant. They because they fear what the community is gonna think about them. So they
hmm
run away and hide. But when they give birth to the babies, they come and steal them away.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot. So what changes? I know, I mean, how do we change the perception? How do we change, we're not going to change societies. I know that, but what do we do? Projects like you've described, but I think for people, we're going to share this interview on Facebook and other social media platforms, but what can
Hmm.
we to change that outcome, to change that narrative so that, like this isn't happening? I know that's a lot, high aspiration, but in your opinion, what are other solutions?
Sensitize,
Okay.
educate, empower. That's it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because that's our motto. Our motto is called SEEC, and
Mhm.
that's what we do is sensitize, educate, empower. That's what we're doing in the community.
Mhm.
And that has been really very hopeful, whereby you start to engage the community. They get to uh, see these people as
Mhm.
the same. You
Mhm.
sensitize them, you educate them, and then you get everyone involved. You get the community involved, you get the families involved, you get
Mhm.
everyone involved, even the government itself.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
That's the only way. That's the only way. And if like a small group like that start like to embrace each other, work together, and
Yep.
then live together, and I think other communities will learn from them. Will learn
Sure.
from that, and then it's one step at a time, just like you said, one
Absolutely.
step at a time. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
and we've
That's
seen
one of
that
the things we.
working because yeah,
I'm
Excuse me.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
yeah, yeah,
apologize.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, go ahead. Yeah, Greg.
But that's one of the things I think that was brought to our attention also in Ghana. The
Mm,
sister that runs the OTC is Sister Elizabeth, and she made a
mm,
comment that really resonated with me. It's like you mentioned the government. She said that
mm,
the current president was very favorable to this facility. So I think it does
mm,
take some governmental recognition and acknowledgement of facilities like you, the changes
mm.
that you're trying to make in order to bring it to national attention. If I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
too far off on that mark there.
mm, yeah,
And I think having someone that's favorable to what you're trying to do can only help you. You mentioned that the president of Uganda was going to come to your groundbreaking, so
mm,
certainly I think that's a relationship you can
yeah,
continue to maintain and have someone that is very favorable of you to help you grow.
yeah, yeah. And actually, still going to come. So he said once the COVID situations gets back to normal, he's willing to come and do the groundbreaking. And
Wonderful.
we are very
Congrats.
excited about that, because that way we can voice out. We can
Yeah.
voice out. We can let the government know this is what is happening. This is what we need. That this is what you need to do in different districts as well.
Mhm.
And then we want to be like we want to have this school as a model school for all the districts in Uganda. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's our goal.
That's congratulations. That's a huge goal, but I'm sure you will accomplish it. That's
Yeah, I will.
amazing.
I will.
You will,
Thank you.
you will. You
Thank you.
will.
Thank you. Yeah.
One thing, as with Project Lolo and with some of the conversations I've had, and probably Greg as well. But and I get a lot of questions too. Sort of. Well, what are you? What is an organization from the U.S. or even a and I don't like labels, but what is a white woman from the United States doing, trying to help kids in Africa? And one, actually, it was an interesting conversation I had. A person, yeah, no, and one person was saying, um, uh, and I just said, well, it's for a very personal reason. I don't know. The reality of growing up in Luca or being raped because I'm disabled or whatnot.
Mm,
But I do know the perspective of what it's like to be treated differently. Because you walk a little different, or you use a prosthetic leg or something like that. And so when I wanted to be sensitive prior to our first trip to Ghana,
mm,
and you
mm,
know, to be realistic with how would we be perceived. And
mm,
one person actually said to me, she said, no, interestingly, because you are American, because you are different, that you, by having a prosthetic leg or a disability, may actually normalize it, sensitize it a
mm,
little bit more to the greater communities or other
mm,
people, because the perception is, if it could happen to you, a white woman in the United States, then it's happening to children here in Luca, in Ghana, or whatever. And hopefully, maybe it changes the acceptance of it. Sort of with that backdrop,
mm,
is that a true statement from your perspective? I guess I think about when we do travel to with Project Lolo, I
mm.
always want to be sensitive to cultures and perceptions and do more good than anything. I don't want to harm. And so I guess I'm just curious what your perspective is from Afri- looking at the outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think we've had a couple of I would say white people coming over, most especially from the University of St. Thomas,
Hmm.
and they have worked with us, and people welcomed him really very well. Like Uganda is, I think the way I think Ugandans are completely different from any other country. I would say they are very warm, welcoming, and they welcome each and every person. I don't think they're going to see you different, but I think for me, what I'm going to say, they're going to see you as an inspiration.
Okay.
You're going to share your story that is going to make them feel like it's not me alone, but
Right.
also it happened to someone else in the US, in Canada. It can happen to someone in Uganda. So it's going to
Yep.
make them feel like it's normal.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It's normal, and then they're going to feel like they are not alone.
Yep.
So your story I think, will make a huge impact.
Well, thank
It
you.
will make a really, really huge impact
I
because
suppose
And I,
I've
it's
seen like
acceptance or realization that, because this has happened to me, I'm not
yes, yes,
pigeonholed
yeah,
to, beg on the streets. I have
yeah.
opportunity. It's not holding me back.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So
mhm.
it will be an inspiration story for me. That's what I think, and it will make a very, very huge impact.
Well, thank you. And I'm not asking that for. I mean, but just to, no, I mean, just to be sensitive. I guess is really what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is. I want to be sensitive to,
yeah. You're
hmm
definitely right. You're
hmm
definitely right. But I know your story. For
hmm
me, your story was it was really very touchy for me. But I think for people who when you share their story that you went through a similar situation, you've gone through this, I think it makes a very huge impact. Because for me, when I'm in the kids in Luca and
hmm
they are coming up to me, and then I share my story as growing up as an orphan,
Yep.
you know
Yeah.
there's a
Absolutely.
connection.
Absolutely.
There's a connection right there. So they
Yep.
feel
Hmm.
like, oh, it also happened to him, but he made it. He's someone. So I can
Right.
also be someone.
You walk
Absolutely.
the same path they're
So
on
I
right
think
now,
that's
and
what your story is going to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's always
yeah,
that connection or that similarity,
yeah.
and
There is that.
if
There will
some.
be that
Yep.
connection there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
rather than someone who comes and is different from him, that's very different. But if you share the same background, same story, somehow you
hmm
connect.
Well,
And that's what is really helping me.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. It's interesting. When
Yeah.
Greg and I were in Ghana, there was a little girl, maybe 5, 6. I can't remember how old she was, and
Mm,
Yeah, she was
she
about 6.
had lost her leg. I want to say it was some sort of trauma, not sure.
mm.
I think she
And
was hit by a truck, if I'm not mistaken. So a
I think,
similar
Oh,
story. Yeah, Calsuck, right?
yeah.
oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
so this little
Mm,
girl, oh my goodness, she refused to use. She hadn't yet been fit with a prosthesis or was being fit,
mm,
and she did not
mm,
want to use
mm.
crutches to get around. So she hopped everywhere.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, yeah.
exactly what I did when I was little, and the
Mm,
physical therapists and the nurses were trying to get her to use her crutches, and she's just no, she didn't want anything to do with it, and
yeah.
and she was a little shy, and at one point I showed her my prosthetic leg. I just, like, I think I
Mm,
had a skirt on or something, and I showed her my leg, and it's just how
mm,
instantly her whole demeanor changed. And if my life, my world ended today, just that experience plus a million others, I would have known,
mm,
that I did something good, for somebody else. But so to your point too, as being an orphan, I mean, and talking to
mm.
kids, that gives them hope. And yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing what you're doing with your organization and your school. And
Thank you.
yeah, I know Greg and I are excited for the time that we can come.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think what yeah, I think and like you said, it starts, one school, and the fact that you're talking about, let's create this one school and then make it as a model school for others. And
Mm.
what's to say that that's not, you know that, I mean, Uganda first, and then spread out. Yeah,
Yep,
I know.
yep, that's true.
One thing I wanted to kind of loop back on too, when you were talking about girls and creating these different projects to create basically their own businesses and providing microloans and really to
Mm,
help them create a sustainable income for themselves. That is also something that Greg and I have talked about, is
mm,
what can we as Project Lolo do? Do we create sort of these virtual academies where the condition to be part of this is that you must be, a child of school age or something with some sort of, just differing ability or disability. And then we talked about, then what are those skills that we can help create? Is it, do we talk about, I mean, do we think completely outside of the box and say, is it something with informational technology, or, can we come up with something that there's training programs so that it's a career, it's a skill that will, m- set them up for life. I know Greg and I were also talking about, what we saw was, so women are, building or making bracelets, and
mm.
and so
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
thing is, a lot of the children we met, especially kids with cerebral palsy, again, cognitively, there are no deficits necessarily.
Mm,
And so, but yet for them to be trained to make something, or to have a skill that requires them to ambulate or to use more of their physicality is not really, it's not really possible, in some cases, in a lot of cases. And so we talked about, is there, a way to partner with other organizations or companies like Microsoft or app or something, to
mm.
teach kids how to do computer coding or something like that. So I know that's just sort of an aside, but to your point about what you're doing with vocational, and I applaud you, and again, what you're doing for kids, and really setting them up for life.
Yeah, I think the thing that one of the thing that you don't want to create is dependence. You know,
Yep.
you just wanna do like give them skills that can help them out throughout their entire life. But if you create dependence every time, they're gonna keep on asking, "Oh, I want this," or "You can do this," or "You can't do this." Then you're not impacting.
Right.
You're not impacting. So that's why we're trying to do skilling for the most part. We create a conducive environment where you can come and then gain skills, and then after you gain skills, we hope you start up like something. We give you a micro loan and we hope you start up something that is going to help out to do. It's going to make your life self-sustainable,
Mhm,
and that's the like the major goal
mhm,
that we have as See Them Grow Foundation.
mhm,
And I think it's working. It's really working. We've tested it, and some of a few girls that are dropped out of school and they said they don't want to go back to school. We hope them give them microloans and they start up small business and they are doing way better,
mhm,
and they've been
mhm,
able to support their families.
mhm,
So I think that's what you can do if you partner up with a local NGOs and help them, like uh, start up some like training, like giving like skills, like projects that can give
mhm,
these children or women or boys skills. That would be the best way to go.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful.
yeah,
Morgan,
yeah.
I want to be sensitive to your timing. I know we have a time difference here.
Yes.
As when we do post this video, we'll share the link to your organization's website as well. Um,
Thank you so much.
Thank
yeah,
you, Morgan.
yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
I
I've been looking forward to see you in Uganda
Oh,
ever
my
since we
heart was
started.
broken that we couldn't come, but I look forward to meeting you, my friend.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
cannot
looking
wait to
forward to
get
see.
there.
I look forward to see you in Luuka.
Definitely, definitely. Well,
Yeah,
this has been wonderful. The conversation could go on. I'm just so
yeah, I know.
intrigued
I
by
know.
what
Yeah,
you're
For
doing,
sure.
but I think, again, hats off to what you and your family are doing with your organization. I know your brother's involved, your sister, and so on
Thank
and
you.
so forth. And, I think the one thing when I met you for the first time is what you just talked about. It was
Mm,
that you want to create skills that for people, for kids that don't create
mm,
dependence. And it
mm,
never had
mm,
occurred to me what that meant
mm,
until you actually said that. And it was such a brilliant
mm,
idea. And
mm,
so I thank you for that. I thank you for sharing
mm,
that. And
mm.
it's also amazing to meet a person, who has used your own life experiences to make the world a better place. And so,
Thank you.
and again, I think like when I met you and your brother and sister, it was just, I felt like I've known you for a lifetime. And, and
Yeah,
I
me
think that's,
too.
yeah, and
Uh,
I think that's
me-
just an amazing thing. And so I'm so appreciative for our friendship that has ensued. And yeah, I look forward to when we actually get to come to Uganda and to the Luka district and to meet these children and to see all the work that you're doing. So,
Thank
all
you.
right. All right.
And
Well,
Greg, thank you. I feel like I've known you for
I
years, and
know.
I can't wait you to see it in Uganda.
I cannot wait to come see your country, my friend.